Where the guys showed this from Russia, and luckily Google Translates allow us to read, all of us who can't speak Russian. So I'll read this article, but also here's a Russian MRA talking about the same particular article. And I'll put this in the description box, and as you can see, you just hit the little wheel, and you can set up CC for English or whatever language you like, and you can hear what he has to say. Now, first I'll read you the article because it's very quick. A 19-year-old girl opened fire in a kindergarten in Krasnoyarsk, I'm not quite sure how to say the name, told investigators about her feminist ideas, reports news agency. According to investigators, on March 28th, the girl shot her father with a gun and then went to kindergarten number 31, where she intended to kill only boys. As a result, her caregivers neutralized her and no one was hurt. There was a case in Canada where a guy decided to kill feminists, not just women, feminists in a university. And they're still talking about that decades later. But notice this guy killed women that were grown women. Here, these women go after children. It just shows you how cowardly they are and how hateful they are. There's never been a time where a shooter went after little girls, ever. So it just goes to show you the level of hate there is. As far as it is clear from the actions of the girl and what she told the investigator, she is supportive of the ideas of radical feminism. Yeah, guys, look, soon as countries, I've said it over and over again, become first world, these women turn on their men. Third world countries, the men glom onto their men and use them. As soon as they become first world, they ditch their men and then start blaming them, going after them. This is the pattern. In the event that the terrorist plan has succeeded, perhaps this would have been the first feminist terrorist attack in Russia history. Now, two things. Of course, just because it didn't succeed doesn't mean it shouldn't be considered a terrorist plan. It is. It is a terrorist plan. Just because she didn't succeed doesn't mean it wasn't the case. She went after a group of people for ideological reasons. And of course, again, that's the second thing is, yeah, in all the history of Russia, of course, because Russia is becoming first world, if you know, or it's increasing its value, right? It's coming up in the world. And so, like I said before, the women turn on their men as soon as they don't need them. Shows you exactly what women think of men. Now, earlier in February, it became known that feminist-oriented resources could enter the register of toxic content in the internet. Could, eh? Wow. So it's toxic content, and it has been put in. Dvorkin has been spewing this kind of sex-oriented man hate, hatred for decades. And of course, it's been let go in the West here forever. And they're just considering it. This is pathetic. Okay. Now to this young man, I'll put in the description box. Like I say, you hit the little wheel here and you can set it to CCs, to captions, to whatever language you want. It's not perfect, but it's good. I'm going to highlight the important parts. You guys can watch this. I'll put in the description box and you can watch it. And as you can see, you guys, this is Russian MRA. He's not overweight or particularly ugly. So he's not someone who doesn't go out and touch grass. So let's kill that right off the bat. But let's see. He talks about the article we're talking about here, right? Showed up in the kindergarten and tried to kill a bunch of children. And makes the mistake of most MRAs. She was detained by other women. And it's ironic and honor and praise to them. So he's going to call them brave. Pal, the alternative is that they just stood aside and let a bunch of babies get shot. Kindergartners under the age of 7. The least they could do is knock down a single woman with a gun. So there's that. Here he says how the woman changed her last name. and she changed her last name to Dvorkin. The American uh, feminist who goes on about murdering men. So there you go. There's that. He also mentions how the brain is thoroughly washed, so much that, so he's saying she's brainwashed. The thing is, pal, the brainwashing will only work if there's a base to use. In other words, this woman didn't like men to start with. She hates men to start with. So all this, that's why she was so easily brainwashed. She didn't like men in the first place. So these ideas just supported what she felt anyway. So there's that. There, she plans on killing boys who are children under the age of 7. There you go. Exactly. This woman could even shoot grown men. She wanted to go after children. This is the lowest of the low. Anyone who attacks a child is disgusting. Now, this is an important part that he's pointing out. The carriers of the ideology is ordinary women. Let's see what he has to say here. Come on. The translate's a little difficult, but he says ideology can be found just by going out into the street. You go for the walk in the center with a huge 100% with a high probability, you'll meet several bearers of this ideology on your way. You will recognize a significant part of them by external signs. At the same time, a significant part of them do not visually differ in any way from an ordinary standard woman. Yeah, you know why, pal? Because they are the ordinary standard woman. Women in my family believe in the wage gap, even when they're told it's bullshit. Women love their victimhood and they're male hostile. I sometimes approach a woman on the street and I ask the usual question, the topic of gender, and she beats with the standards of this crazy, happy feminist propaganda. Yeah, the average woman is a feminist. And this is probably the most important thing he has to say in his video. Though nothing foreshadowed her appearance. She doesn't have any dyed hair. Yeah, hear that, you right-wing losers? She doesn't have hairy armpits or dyed hair. Yeah, a lot of feminists are gorgeous women who appear beautiful and feminine. Because the ideology has nothing, the average woman feels this way. They may not be extremist and want to kill children, but they believe in the bullshit man-hating narratives. She has unshaven braided dreadlocks there. They don't bristle out of nowhere. See, an ordinary woman attacks and pours me communicated. I know the translation is wonky, but that's what he's saying. They're ordinary women who have this fascist ideology. And you don't just notice them from a distance because they look like any other woman. Because again, they probably are any other woman. And in this way, the typical MRA, they fail. I don't want to, because of course, then he wants to try and say women have a right, or I should say that they don't have rights. He say, even by the way I don't want to somehow devalue. Come on, start up again. Even in theory, the very idea for women's rights. There you go. So this is a failure on his part. There you go. So he's failed already. The vast majority of MRAs are failures. because of course he's trying to make a separate. Like there's the feminists that are wild and crazy and extremist, but then the women need to fight for their rights. So he doesn't know what he's talking about. Then he gets it wrong. He says the ideology is rooted in the feeling of inferiority. Sorry, pal, you are just wrong. You are just wrong. That's why the average woman, that's why there's no telltale signs for you. Did you say the average woman thinks this? This is not inferiority. This is simply that of superiority. The women don't like men. They see themselves as above men, and that's where it comes from. Some kind of gender liberation struggle, it is important that, oh yeah, the initially flawed person clings to, yeah. So he's saying these are flawed women, right? Well, again, I'm telling you, he said it himself, and I'm telling you now, the average woman jumps on feminist ideas. So the average woman is flawed? No, I mean, he's wrong. This is more begging and pandering and please, there's these bad women over there, but this has nothing to do with what the average woman thinks of men. So he's failed. Look at this. Way a strongly independent woman will never become a radical feminist. There, he doesn't know what he's talking about. This guy is gullible. Say he said, "Oh, only the insecure ones become feminists." Sorry, pal, you don't know what you're talking about. And of course, he's coming off as a trad con. If a woman wants to build a family and have children, we had to deal with this 100 times over now, as if women care about family and children. Well, this is all zombie men. If definitely a woman wants to enter into a love relationship, okay, he's a trad con. Again, this guy can't get over his own brainwashing. This is so sad. We see this so many times in the West. So this is the way it works out, guys. Feminist shows up, and then these trad cons show up. This shows more of his gullibility. Kindergarten age boys, they seriously think kindergarten age boys are rapists and reviews. This is no joke. This is the ideology of, okay, so he doesn't realize they don't believe little boys are rapists. They just hate little boys and want to kill them. That's it. So he's all shocked over this. I'm not. This is androcide. These women hate men and want to kill men. And they hate us right from the time we're born. Being a child doesn't protect you. And he can't come to terms with how women view men. So, I mean, this is all that's going on here. Of course, this guy's finding out the sentencing gap between men and women. Let's face it, of course, she will most likely be thwarted. Unfortunately, she will give her a maximum of a couple of years for the murder of her father, an attempt at terror. He might be right, he might be wrong, but we've seen it enough over here. She just starts crying her crocodile tears, and her lawyer says she's only a girl. Therefore, give her a couple of years for murdering some guy. Okay, I gave you the highlights. Like I said, I'll put in the description box. You guys can listen to them on your own. The article's very short. Notice the article never gives this woman's name. If it's a guy, everyone will know his name. But a girl, they just say, "Oh, we can't let anyone know about her." Anyway, that is what we have to say. It's happening everywhere. It doesn't matter what country you come from. It doesn't matter what time in history, really. Well, I suppose it does matter what time in history. It depends on whether your country is first world or third world. That's what it does, right? And we'll end it here.